Why this one French sentence is said to be impossible to translate. And by the way, it's the very first line of the book. Ridiculous. Alright, here's what it means in English. Today, mom died. Or maybe yesterday, I don't know. It's not hard to translate because of grammar. It's hard because it's flat. There's no emotion, no judgment, not even certainty. And yet, that's the entire spirit of Stranger by Albert Camus. The world doesn't come with an instruction manual for how you are supposed to feel. I'm not going to talk about the linguistics or semantics there. If you speak French, feel free to show off in the comments. What really makes me both excited and not excited is apparently The Stranger is being made into a film, a movie. You know, the day I checked the cast, Benjamin Voisin or Voisin is playing Meursault, also Swann Arlaud. The shooting location, Tangier, Morocco, that place is just amazing. You know, one of my favorite series from Spain was filmed there. It's hard to describe, but the city feels too bright. The sunlight is too white, the wind too sharp, like the whole world has just been washed and hung out to dry. Everything about the production sounds perfect. And honestly, in my head, Meursault has always been handsome. Otherwise, how could Mary be so in love with him? But here's a question. Can a novel about existentialism really be made into a movie? Because everyone who reads this book sees a different Meursault and a different version of themselves. Some say he's lonely and cold. Some say he's awake, a man who refused to play society games. Or someone even say, I'm just like him. Sorry, friend, you are not a Meursault. You've studied moral education. You know what the responsibility, family duty, and social order mean. You won't just shoot a man in broad daylight because the sun was too bright. But anyway, curious babies, it's Joya. Because this film comes out, I want to take you deep into this story, and at the end, we'll discuss a question. There did debate. People often say The Stranger is about nihilism. That's because the main character doesn't care about anything. His mother's death, marriage, even murder. But is he really a nihilist? Before that, let's talk about another thing, because Albert Camus, and his idea usually get thrown into the box called existentialism. Let me try to explain that simple as I can. Take this bottle. Yeah, this bottle. It was born with a purpose to hold water or soda or whatever. While the factory made it, it already had the script. You aren't just a bottle. You hold some liquid. But people aren't like that. When we're born, no one hands us note saying, here what you are for. Some of us get told, work hard and climb the ladder. Some of us told, get married, have kids, stable. But these aren't natural scripts. They are just other people's expectations. And that's what existentialism is really about. You are not born with meaning. What you do and what you live is what makes you who you are. You don't get the script before you go on stage. You are thrown on the stage first and you write your lines as you go. So, back to the bottle for a second. If I threw this bottle away right now, its purpose is over. But humans are different. You know, humans always have a self-awareness. We keep asking why I'm here, what I'm doing with my life. Sorry, I'm drafting into a big philosophical mode again, but that's basically existentialism. admitting it's normal to ask these questions because nobody else has written the answer for you. So remember the story began. It's 1936, Algiers city prison. A young man in his 20s has just arrived. He seems calm, a bit blank. He's not like the other prisoners, the thieves, the drunkards, the fighters. Everyone says they're innocent. He doesn't. He simply admits, yes, I killed a man. The case is simple. Meursault is an office clerk, quiet, ordinary, no close friends. His only family is his mother. He sends her to a nursing home. When she dies, he attends the funeral, and all he feels is that it's really hot. He doesn't cry. He drinks coffee, smokes, and even dozes off at the wake. The next day, he goes swimming with a woman named Maurice. They go to a movie, laugh, sleep together. Later, his neighbor Raymond, a pimp, asks for help writing a letter. He wants to lure his ex-girlfriend back and hit her again. Meursault writes it. No questions, no moral judgment. To him, writing a letter is just writing a letter. Words on paper, no good, no evil. Then one day they go to the beach. They run into the girl's brother, an Arab man. There's a fight. Raymond gets cut with a knife. Meursault takes Raymond's gun. The sun burns. The air feels heavy like it's glowing. The Arab man reappears. The light flashes off his knife. Meursault steps forward, pulls the trigger. Bang! The man falls. Meursault walks closer, fires 4 more shots. Silence. It's over. The investigation went on for months. Meursault just sat there quietly, answering endless questions about the gun, the beach, and the dead man. But what everyone really wanted to know was, why didn't he cry at his mother's funeral? The prosecutor talked for hours about his behavior. The smoking, the coffee, the swim with Marie. He said Meursault had no soul, that he was a man without tears, a monster with no sense of decency. When they finally ask if he has anything to say, he doesn't speak about guilt or regret. He only listens to the long, hollow speech of the presiding judge, who declares, "In the name of the French people, you will be decapitated in a public place." It sounds like a ritual, a string of words said 1,000 times before. Meursault thinks how strange it is that his death depends on something read at 8 o'clock instead of 5, decided by men who changed their underwear and credited it to an idea as vague as the French people. He wonders, why not the Chinese people or the German people? Would it change anything? All of it feels absurd. And yet he knows the result is real. From that moment on, the verdict becomes as solid and unshakable as the prison wall behind his back. Then they move him to a smaller cell. From there, Meursault can see only a slice of sky. The rest is stone, silence, and time. He keeps thinking about the machine, the guillotine waiting somewhere, sharp, clean, efficient, never making mistakes. He wonders if anyone has ever escaped it, if once maybe the blade stopped halfway. He knows it's foolish, but the thought means one thing. He still wants to live. Days pass in silence. Sometimes he tells himself, people die. Anyway, 30 or 70, what's the difference? But then another voice inside him says, if there's even one chance in 1,000, I'd still take it. One afternoon, the prison chaplain comes again. He tells Meursault to pray, to repent, that God can help him. Meursault answers, I don't believe in God, and even if I did, I haven't got time to waste on him. The chaplain insists. He says every man finds faith in the end. Meursault snaps. He grabs the priest by the collar and shouts, don't waste your rotten prayers on me. It's better to burn than to disappear. You talk about life, but you live like a dead man. The guards rush in. The chaplain's eyes are full of tears. He says nothing and leaves. After that, Meursault feels calm. The silence in the cell no longer hurts him. That night, he smells earth and salt in the air, hears the sea somewhere far away. For the first time in months, he feels peace. He thinks of his mother. Now he understands her. At the end of her life, she took a fiancé pretending to start again. Back then, he didn't get it, now he does. In the place where leaves were fading, the evening light must have felt like a comfort. With death so close, his mother must have felt like someone standing at the edge of freedom, ready to begin again. No one, he thinks, has a right to weep for her. And he too feels ready to start life all over again. He looks up at the night sky. The stars are silent. The universe doesn't care, but it's gentle in its indifference. He feels it's almost like him. He realizes he has been happy and that he is happy still. For all to be accomplished, for me to feel less lonely, all that remains to hope is that on the day of my execution, there will be a huge crowd of spectators, and they will greet me with howls of hatred. Okay, let's back to the earlier question. Is he nihilist? People love to say The Stranger is about life have no meaning, but it's actually the opposite. Let's sort out some ideas always get mixed up. I think I could post 3 here. First is nihilism. Nothing matters, so why bother? Second is cynicism. Don't take anything seriously, just survive. Don't get fooled. This one's interesting. This term first comes from my favorite ancient troublemaker, Diogenes of Sinope, a Greek philosopher who lived like a stray dog, literally. Back then, cynic actually meant idealistic, simple, honesty free. The Latin word cynicus means dog-like. But over time, the meaning rotated. Now, cynicism means coldness, disbelief in anything. That shift started with 19th century satire and stuck around in modern culture. And the third, absurd by Camus. The world doesn't answer your why. That's absurd. But you still have to live, choose, act, and take responsibility. So, what the difference is? Nihilism leaves the field. Cynicism just floats. Absurdism or absurd stays and plays. Just knowing it can win, but playing anyway. If we take an example of nihilism, think of Nietzsche's God is dead. And his answer, if the old gods are gone, humans must invent meaning for themselves. Camus looked at that and said, sure, but don't go overboard. He agreed with facing the void, but not agreed with Nietzsche's be your own God enthusiasm. Like in The Rebel, Camus wrote, in order to exist, man must rebel, but rebellion must respect the limits it discovers itself. In other words, yes, rebel, but don't crush others to prove your freedom. Be free, but with boundaries. Both men wanted the same thing. Don't get eaten alive by void. Only the tools are different. Nietzsche smashed the walls with a hammer. Camus pushed his rock up the hill. So, Meursault isn't someone who doesn't care. He's someone who refused to fake caring. He doesn't pretend to be doleful or romantic or repentant. He is honest, painfully honest. Think about it. Most of us spend our lives acting. At work, we act diligent. At home, we act kind. In love, we act passionate. Even in sadness, we act sad the right way. Meursault doesn't act. He just says, I didn't feel that way, so I didn't say it. And for that, society called him a monster, a stranger. This book isn't nihilism, it's a mirror, showing us the roles we play every day, the fake emotions we perform to keep the story going. The world never promised meaning, but you can promise yourself this. I'm gonna live a little more honestly today, even if all you can say is the sun It's really bright. Finally, I will talk about the Albert Camus. Sorry, I got carried away again. I didn't mention him earlier because didn't want to sound like a fangirl. Let's be honest, philosophy always sounds more convincing when it comes from a good-looking man. Camus was under 30 when he wrote The Stranger. He born in Algiers, a poor French Algerian kid. Smart, broke, had tuberculosis, loved to play football, goalkeeper, actually, and yes, he was handsome. He worked as a journalist, he liked clarity, he had empty, big words. He wasn't the kind of philosopher who built giant theories. That was more centrist style. Camus smuggled philosophy into stories. That's why The Stranger feels clean, bright, physical. Sound sweet, sea, stones, tobacco, coffee, abstract words hardly show up. Of course, The Stranger has its controversies. A rob victim has no name. Colonists sit in a background, and some say Meursault's honesty ignores violence itself. All fair points and worth discussing, not to cancel him, but to understand him more deeply. Because that's the thing about Camus. His knife has bone and age and a blind spot. Still, he did something remarkable. He took honesty out of morality classes and put it back into the body. It's just like first admit you are hot, tired, uncertain, don't want to pretend it. Then talk about meaning. That's not laziness, that's starting from zero. Alright, I think that's enough for today. Maybe by the time you see this video, the movie is already out, but never mind. If you enjoyed this one, just hit subscribe. We'll see you later.